Welcome, listeners, to the Lust for Life podcast, where you'll be joining a girl on her journey to discovering the depths of emotional intelligence. This is your host, Tennessee Reed. Welcome back, everyone. It's so great to have you back again. I'm really excited to be making this episode, and it's about a topic that I journaled about this week and experienced this week, and I even bounced the idea off of a couple of people because I was just so intrigued by this idea. Essentially, what had happened this week was each week at our work, we have what's called grand rounds, and we kind of discuss case studies for different patients, or we discuss cultural implications that pertain to our job. And this week it was about how to respond to racially inappropriate comments towards providers, towards patients, because we find that patients often make assumptions about our culture and maybe bring that up in more of a disrespectful way, or just in general, how to respond to inappropriate comments made by patients. And if you've worked in healthcare, honestly, if you worked any job, you know that there are inappropriate comments made all the time. And for some reason, we just feel like we can't stand up for ourselves because we feel like we're going to lose our job, or we're going to get a bad rating, or something is just going to impact us negatively if we stand up for ourselves. And essentially what happened in this grand rounds was they showed a video of a patient seeing that their doctor was skin of color, and there was also a nurse in the room, and the patient was essentially saying, like, where are you from? How long have you been in the US for? Like, in a very negative connotation, indicating that they were not satisfied with this patient's color of their skin and therefore did not want care from them because of that. And this interaction lasted about a minute in the video. And what struck me was the nurse in the room never said a thing, never stood up for that doctor. And the doctor didn't stand up for themselves either. They just said, I'm sorry, I need a minute. I'm just going to step out of the room. For me, that was really hard to watch. And what was even harder to watch was the response of some of my colleagues, which, in my opinion, is a simple answer. But some of my colleagues were saying I probably wouldn't have said anything in the room. I just would have said the same thing as the doctor and would have stepped out of the room and not stood up for myself. And I know I have a support group outside of patient care that I can refer to and kind of like bounce things off of and find my safe place there. And for me, like, I don't find anything wrong with standing up for yourself or standing up for others. Because when I was little, I was taught you stand up to the bullies. And that's what I've done in my life. Even though it's hard and it's not fun, you stand up to bullies. And I hate that we've created this culture of just taking the heat and not saying anything. Obviously, there's a time and a place. But for me, if I was a nurse, and I have been in that position before, and a patient was acting inappropriately to a doctor, I would step in and I would say, I'm sorry, this behavior is not going to be tolerated. You can either change it or you can leave. Because how I view a relationship with a patient and a doctor or a nurse is, this is a contract. This is a contract, and here are the parameters. And it's not fair for either of us if those expectations aren't met. So let's establish respect right now. Let's establish how things are going to run. And if you're not happy with this contract, you're more than welcome to find another doctor. You're more than welcome to find someone who's going to fit your needs better, because that's not fair to you and it's not fair to me. That's how I view other relationship in my life too, is I feel like when we first meet somebody, we need to establish a contract. This is how it's going to be. Our first impressions matter, and you're going to treat me with respect, and I'm going to treat you with respect. And if we're not meshing, then that's okay. We don't have to mesh with everybody. We don't have to get along with everybody. If everybody got along with everybody, we'd all be the same. We have different personalities, we have different goals, we have different likes, we have different dislikes. Not everyone's going to get along with everyone, and that's okay. But going back to the scenario of this video and the doctor being in the room getting ridiculed for what he looks like and the nurse not saying anything, I hate that we've created this culture of taking the heat, not saying anything, but I'm not saying you respond with heat. All I'm saying is it's okay to stand up for yourself in a respectful way. If someone's coming at you yelling and angry, and you respond yelling and angry, that's not going to get anywhere. It's just going to escalate the problem. The only way to stand up for yourself or others is to respond in a calm manner. Because if you respond in a calm manner, you take away all the power of the other person. You take away all the energy from them because they're going to feel silly. They're going to feel silly for yelling at you, and you're going to be the one in control, and that other person's going to know that. So there's a time and a place to stand up for yourself. And my opinion on this, because I was asking myself all week, when is it worth it to spend the energy to stand up for yourself and show people that you are deserving of respect? And in my opinion, it's if there's a potential for a long-lasting relationship here. If you're just walking by someone in a crowd and they just start yapping at you, obviously you're probably never going to see that person again. Just ignore them. You don't need to stir anything. You don't need to create contentious energy. If this is a relationship that you're potentially going to revisit, you're potentially going to have something out of, that is a time to respectfully respond saying, hey, that is inappropriate behavior, or that really made me feel this way, and here's why. In the future, if we want things to work, maybe we can go about doing it this way. And let me know your thoughts on this, and you have a discussion. So I found that in hospital settings as a nurse, I worry about standing up for myself, which I've had to do many times in the hospital, in the clinics, because I worry, I'm like, oh my gosh, my manager's going to pull me back and they're going to believe the patient and not my opinion or how things went for me. And I hate that big corporations feel that way sometimes. And Jake and I both want to open our own private practices one day. And if I was treating one of my staff members with disrespect and another staff member stood up for them, heck to the yeah. I would say, I freaking love this team. Keep doing what you're doing. Maybe we can do it in a more respectful way if it wasn't an inappropriate way. But if my staff member stands up for another staff member, that is a family. I would be so happy to see that. And I don't know why we can't embrace that culture better. I just feel like there's so much disrespect that goes on in this world sometimes. And it's okay to stand up for yourself. We're teaching people to be shy and just take the heat. And I'm like, no, there's a way to address things in a respectful way that gives people the respect that they deserve. Everyone is deserving of respect. And when you don't stand up for yourself, when you are being treated with disrespect, you start to feel cruddy about yourself. You start to feel like you're worthless. You start to feel you're not worth it. But when you have people standing up for you, or you stand up for yourself, that feels good. It feels empowering. So I want to create this culture of you are worth it. Do not let people push you around. You are valuable. Know what you bring to the table, and be calm enough and conscious enough that when those times do come, that you are able to respond in a calm manner. If you need to step back, then take a step back. Sometimes our emotions do get the best of us. And if we respond with our emotions, that's the worst thing we can do. If we respond with a conscious, calm mind, it takes all the power from the other person. I have always been one to stand up for others, and I've always been one to stand up for myself. And I want to encourage you to do the same, because you are deserving of respect. You are deserving of respect, and you are deserving to help others see their respect. So you can stand up for others too in a very respectful way. And I want to reiterate, you are not going to get along with everybody, and that's okay. Not everyone is going to love you, and that's okay. There's a lot of jealousy in this world. There's a lot of anger, contention because of jealousy. When you have something that someone else doesn't, and they are weak-minded, that's when jealousy steps in. When you have something that someone doesn't and they're strong-minded, they're going to ask you, how did you get that? There's so many different emotions that people let their emotions dictate their actions every single day. You have to be so conscious and put so much energy into your actions and not letting your emotions determine your actions. It takes a level of dissociation. Your emotions are valid. You are allowed to have emotions. Everybody has emotions. That's part of being human. What is not valid and not tolerated is acting on your emotions. And that takes a level of skill. I am definitely still working on this one, and I've come a long way, but I'm definitely still working on it. It takes a level of skill to be able to dissociate yourself from a situation and view it on a very objective level. Once again, one of my favorite things is your emotions are valid. Acting on your emotions is not valid. We're all human. We're allowed to feel angry. We're allowed to feel sad, but we are certainly not allowed to let those emotions dictate our lives. So you have to live at a very conscious level to be able to dissociate yourself from your emotions, still process them, still analyze them. You don't want to just brush them under the rug, but then take an objective view. Ask someone who you trust to objectively view also and make a decision on that. And just like with anything else, when you practice it more, it's going to get easier and it's going to become habit. Those are just some thoughts that I had this week. Kind of some powerful emotional thoughts that I had this week, because I'm very passionate about being treated with respect. And if someone I know or I see is not being treated with respect, it does not make me happy. And I want to set things straight. And I want you to know that you all are deserving of respect. And you should look in the mirror and say that to yourself, because you are. And start acting like it too. Hold yourself to a high standard. Hold yourself to high expectations and high goals, because you can do it. You can do it. And the last thing is, if you need to, step away, dissociate yourself from your emotions. Your emotions are valid. Acting on your emotions is not valid. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. Kind of powerhouse of words with lots of emotion from me, but something I'm very passionate about. I love you all, and I will see you next week.